I will call to order this meeting of the Oversight Committee. It is 8:03 a.m. Mr. Taylor, please proceed with the roll call.
Ms. Payne,
Here.
Mr. Margot, here. Dr. Cummings,
Here.
Dr. Hernandez, here. Mr. Montgomery, here. Dr. Patel, yeah. Dr. Rice, here. Dr. Rosenfeld, present. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And for the minutes, I would like to acknowledge that Dr. Cummings is joining via teleconference. Members, you have the draft minutes from the November 19 Oversight Committee meeting in your agenda packet behind tab 1. Are there any corrections to the minutes as circulated? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 19 Oversight Committee meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next agenda item is public comment. Texans created CPRIT. Opening our meetings with public comment underscores the board's commitment to transparency and accountability. Mr. Ellis, has CPRIT received any requests to provide public comment?
We have Dr. Tinash Chandauka registered for public comment.
I recognize Dr. Tanesh Chandauka to provide public comment. We have a full agenda today, so the time limit for public comment is 3 minutes. I will let you know when your time has expired. If you push the button and the green light comes on, then
Good morning.
thank you.
It's an honor to have this opportunity to address the Oversight Committee and the members of Texas, our great state. Thank you for welcoming us. I represent an applicant. During the process, we experienced at least 3 major irregularities, and we have not received a comprehensive response to our queries. We are willing to share with the Oversight Committee. We know that the Oversight Committee may already know some of the issues at hand. We are here and willing to answer any questions the Oversight Committee may have. We believe deeply in the work that CPRIT does. And in our case, we have a stellar team that is ready and waiting to begin our clinical trial for a population of cancer patients in desperate need. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Dr. Hebert to introduce Dr. Hong and Dr. Gramachas.
Good morning. It's great to see everyone. When we were thinking about a guest speaker, we thought we'd do something a little different for academic research and bring in one of our leaders of a core facility. Because we looked back and we didn't think that a leader of a core facility had spoken to the Oversight Committee in quite some time. And so we selected Dr. Thung Hong, who is a faculty member at Baylor College of Medicine, and she runs the ACCESS core, the Adolescents and Childhood Cancer Epidemiology core. So this is a core that affects all of Texas. And so we thought it would be really fun to hear about her work. And then she's brought a guest to show you how the core has amplified its impact across Texas. So, Dr. Hong.
Good morning. Thank you to the organizing committee for the invitation to talk about the ACCESS core facility. I'm going to wait for the slides to pull up. I'm excited to share how important and this unique this resource is for pediatric cancer researchers and families affected by pediatric cancer. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the incidence of childhood cancer has increased by 41% since 1975. This translates to about 15,000 children and adolescents being diagnosed with cancer in the United States each year, and roughly 10% are diagnosed in the state of Texas. Despite the increasing incidence, the underlying causes of childhood cancer is not well understood. In the same time period, we've seen a 57 decrease in the mortality of childhood cancer. This decrease is due to the advancements in treatments. You can see that the 5-year survival rate has increased from roughly 60% in the 1970s to almost 90% today. As a result, we now have over 500,000 childhood cancer survivors living in the United States today. These survivors experience acute and late effects due to their cancer therapy, as well as lifelong chronic health conditions. We don't fully understand which survivors are at risk of developing these adverse events or the underlying biological mechanism. Because of the rarity of childhood cancers, Access was created to develop a collaborative, multi-site infrastructure to accelerate meaningful discoveries for pediatric cancer patients. The first phase of Access was funded in 2016 for $6 million across 5 years. And this was led by Dr. Michael Schur. The original goal was to develop a resource to understand the etiology of childhood cancer and survival. In 2021, Access received a renewal award for $4 million across 5 years, and this renewal will end this August. In the renewal, Access was expanded to collect information on treatment-related adverse events. Dr. Schur became my mentor when I joined Baylor College of Medicine in 2022. And under his mentorship, I became familiar with Access and have leveraged it in my research. When he left for Emory last spring, it was a natural transition for me to become PI of Access. This heat map shows of Texas shows the number of new childhood cancer diagnoses between 1995 to 2017 and by county. And the darker shaded counties illustrate that they had fewer new cases of childhood cancer cases, while the counties in yellow had at least 250 new childhood cancer cases during this time period. As you can see from this map, the 8 Access sites, which are indicated in the orange dots, are located in both urban and medically underserved areas, and they treat the vast majority, estimated up to 75%, of new cases of childhood cancer in the state. In addition to these 8 sites, we have 3 regional biobanking centers, which are illustrated by the red stars. I'd like to take a quick moment to highlight the Access site PIs. The achievements of Access would not be possible without the leadership of each of these individuals at their institution. And this slide just highlights how the 8 Access sites feed into the 3 different regional banking centers that we have. And here, Access has supported a total of 25 personnel across sites. And you can see the breakdown of the number of personnel by site on the right column. So what does Access do on a day-to-day? Our trained research coordinators approach patients with pediatric cancer and their parents as close to diagnosis as possible. And if they consent to enroll into Access, then we try to collect a biospecimen as close to diagnosis as possible, as well as twice during therapy, 1 time towards the end of therapy, and then annually during their long-term survivorship clinic. The figure on the right highlights the different types of biospecimens that we collect. And as of the end of January, we've collected over 15,700 biospecimens, with the most common of which is blood. And these biospecimens can be used by investigators to address research questions related to underlying biological mechanisms related to etiology, therapy response, and adverse events. In addition to the biospecimens, we also have access to their clinical data, and we're collecting this information in real time from diagnosis throughout their long-term survivorship care. Also at enrollment, we administer an epidemiologic risk factor questionnaire to collect additional information that we can't obtain through clinical data. As part of the consent process, we ask participants if they would be interested in being recontacted for future research to address additional research questions that are not covered by the access protocol. We also invite biological parents to enroll into access to collect a saliva sample for etiological studies. To store all of this rich data we're obtaining from participants, we've worked with Research IT at Baylor College of Medicine and have developed a centralized database that all sites use to input patients' clinical and questionnaire data, as well as all the biospecimen collection information. This centralized database allows us to perform data audits, data quality checks, and pool data for research projects and reports. As of the end of January, we've enrolled 6,017 cases, and you can see the distribution by diagnoses, race, ethnicity, and sex to the right. So the most common diagnosis that we capture is leukemia, which is not surprising because it's the most common childhood cancer. Roughly 50% of cases identify as being Hispanic or Latino, and 55% are male. Over 3,500 of these cases have consented to be recontacted for future research, and over 3,700 parents have enrolled into access. So what has been the impact of access so far? The $10 million CPRIT has invested in access has yielded an additional 28 grants totaling over $69 million. And you can see the breakdown of these grants in the table on the slide. This doesn't even include several pending grants that are currently under review. As you can see it on this slide, the award dates of these 28 grants range from 2016 to 2030. And of these 28 grants, 2 supported early career investigators with their career development awards. The breadth of these grants include studies on etiology, toxicities, and survivorship. All grants but one had a PI or MPI from Texas, and 88% of the total award came from federal grants. To exemplify how Access has successfully positioned PIs for federal awards, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Monica Gramachas, who is a professor at Baylor College of Medicine, and she's going to share how essential the Access infrastructure is for 2 large ongoing grants she is MPI of.
Thank you, Dr. Hong. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Monica Gramachas, and I am the PI of 2 landmark studies that are federally funded grants that we'd like to highlight, both of which would not be possible without Access as a resource. The first of these is the Survivorship and Access to Care for Latinos to Understand and Address Disparities grant or study. And this is a unique cohort building grant mechanism that is designed to build a cohort, a new cohort of survivors in the United States. The goal of SALUD is to identify and address adverse outcomes of childhood cancer treatment in survivors who are representative of the Texas population. This is a multi-investigator study co-led by myself, Lisa Cahaley at Baylor College of Medicine, who's a pediatric psychologist, and Michael Schur, molecular epidemiologist, who is now at Emory. I think you can forward a little bit of the, oh, thank you, Sam. Thank you. Okay, so SALUD is about to start its 6th and final year of funding. And what I wanted to illustrate here is that SALUD fundamentally leverages access infrastructure by collecting data and biospecimens plus patient-reported outcomes across the cancer care continuum and across the state of Texas. You all, Dr. Hung has mentioned that you all are aware that survivors of childhood cancer are at exceptionally high risk for long-term effects of cancer treatment, such as cardiovascular disease, second cancers, and psychological outcomes. But most of what we currently know about survivors of childhood cancer, at least in the United States, is from one single survivor cohort that was founded and formed out of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And that survivor cohort was developed. It's a nationwide cohort that essentially recruited survivors who were treated in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and who have been followed prospectively from major cancer centers in large metropolitan areas in the U.S. So as a result, we know very little about the broader population of survivors of childhood cancer who are not represented by those major metropolitan areas across the U.S. What Salud is adding to our understanding is a diverse cohort of survivors of childhood cancer enrolled from both rural and urban centers, from small cities, medically underserved regions, as well as larger metropolitan areas. And the population is anticipated to be 50% Latino, which is incredibly unique because the cohort that I mentioned from St. Jude is about 90% non-Hispanic white and only 10% of underrepresented populations. This cohort is expected to broaden our understanding of the long-term outcomes of modern cancer chemotherapy in the current treatment era, and is an incredible resource for understanding cancer outcomes for many years to come. The second study I would like to highlight is a newly funded study. This study is entitled Reducing Disparities in Acute Leukemia, and this is a specialized program of research excellence, or SPORE. NCI-funded SPOREs are the cornerstone of the NCI's effort to promote research collaboration, and is a multi-project, multi-core grant that is a total direct cost of close to $12 million. This study also leverages the access infrastructure for specifically childhood leukemia, with the objective of reducing differences in health outcomes among children and adolescents who have acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the most common childhood cancer, by identifying genetic and environmental factors that contribute to adverse outcomes from diagnosis through survivorship. I mentioned this study was just funded in September and will extend through August 2030. If you'd like to learn more about the SPORE, there's a QR code to the NCI website listing more details around the SPORE and the projects that are involved. But this SPORE will study both hepatotoxicity, neurotoxicity, pharmacogenomic implementation, and social determinants of health and epigenetics in populations collected across the state of Texas, including 2 clinical trials, with also supporting multiple core facilities in support of this research effort and recruitment across the entire state. I have one more slide to present, which is only to indicate the impact of access from publications, which is currently 17 and counting. As you can imagine, this incredibly rich resource is anticipated to generate many more publications in the years to come. These 17 are all directly funded from Access and led by Access co-investigators. And you can see they span the spectrum of a genome-wide association study of childhood leukemia that revealed novel African ancestry-specific susceptibility loci that are also indicative of poorer prognosis in Black populations, children with leukemia. There was also a recent study of treatment-associated hepatotoxicity that helped us understand what are the underlying factors contributing to liver toxicity in children treated for leukemia. And last, our group is pioneering work that helps to understand predictors of neurotoxicity with the specific chemotherapy agent methotrexate, for which Latino populations are uniquely additionally susceptible. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dr. Hong.
Access is a unique resource to identify risk factors for etiology and outcomes. And as we've highlighted through this presentation, access includes underrepresented populations as well as folks who are medically underserved. No one in the world is doing what Access does. It's the only study that we're aware of that enrolls patients and families as close to diagnosis as possible and has this robust multi-site infrastructure to enroll patients and prospectively collect samples and clinical data longitudinally over time. This resource is available to investigators across all career stages from early to senior investigators nationwide. This access has also been leveraged by Texas investigators from medically underserved areas to use for research studies that would have been possible at their institution because of limited resources. I'd also like to highlight that this core facility is free to use. And this is because we want to accelerate meaningful discoveries for patients with childhood cancer. So we don't charge investigators a fee for data pools or fees for samples. They come to us, we're more than willing to collaborate because we want, answers for these children as fast as possible. CPRIT's $10 million investment has had nearly a 7-fold return on investment in additional grant funding, and it has and will have numerous research contributions to the field of pediatric cancer. And because of access, Texas is becoming a leader in pediatric cancer research. And with continued support, Texas would be at the forefront of pediatric cancer epidemiology in the world, if I could say. And on behalf of the pediatric cancer research community and families affected by pediatric cancer diagnosis, we are incredibly grateful for CPRIT's support and are disappointed that funding will end this August. Because, as I've hopefully demonstrated throughout this presentation, this is not your typical core facility where we're buying in fancy equipment and charging users to access. This sustainability is really impossible without CPRIT. This is an investment in an infrastructure to recruit patients and longitudinally collect data and biospecimens. We would welcome an opportunity to sustain this infrastructure, and I'm open to conversations on how CPRIT might continue to fund this. With that, I'd like to thank the Oversight Committee for their time and attention, and we're happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you both. Are there any questions for Dr. Hong? Or Dr. Gramaches? Yes, Dr. Rosenfeld. Oh, sorry, Dr. Rosenfeld?
I'll just jump in first.
Okay.
Give it a second.
Okay,
First of all,
Dr.
good
Rice.
morning. Thank you. Jump away. Thank you so much for your presentation, number one. Number two, I just had a question. First of all, the idea of the longitudinal biospecimen collection is foundationally unbelievable, and I hope everybody understands that. So that's really great. I'm not aware of other large biobanks that do that. Usually it's about one specimen one time, and then you got to try to glue a science together. So longitudinal is foundationally important. My specific question was, I wondered, as you collect biospecimens and there's different types, blood and CSF and urine and all these different things, do you have a standardized genomic, proteomic, metabolomic, sort of set of things you do and that's what's being put up in the public domain, something like this, so that people can come and query that with different kinds of questions and different kinds of math and different kinds of approaches? Is that how that works?
So the biospecimens that we have are open to any investigators with a specific research question. They'll typically come with us with a research proposal, and the Access IPIs will review and discuss the proposal. And if we approve, then the investigator will get those specimens and pay for the funding for, say, proteomics or genetic sequencing or whatever. We don't have the funds to do that type.
Oh, interesting. Okay, because that would be something to be quite exciting if you did that for all of your specimen.
Yeah.
Fair.
I can add to that. So grants like Salud have supported genomic ancestry on 6,000 of the population. And then also we are conducting DNA methylation analyses to understand the impact of, for example, epigenetic aging in association with outcomes that we see long-term in survivors. So we use other grant mechanisms like federally funded or foundation grants or other CPRIT grants to support the metabolomic or genetic or epigenetic type analyses that we conduct using the access biospecimens. And that's been our strategy thus far.
Would it be interesting to try to get some funding to then just characterize the whole data bank?
Yes,
But-
I mean, we haven't, so we do what's available through the fundings that we have through the grants that, so yes, we would certainly welcome an opportunity to more broadly characterize the entire population. Thus far, most grants have focused on specific diagnoses or specific types of specimens for that kind of characterization. I would say most samples have been assessed for genomic ancestry, but beyond that, the remainder of the analyses are in subpopulations. We also have a grant that's done metabolomic analyses. So we have some of all of those things, but not all of those things.
Thank you. That's what we want.
Dr. Rosenfeld.
Just a couple of real quick questions. One of the things that caught my attention during your presentation is that you said for the $10 million that CPRIT funding has provided, you've now obtained $70 million of funds over that. So that's a pretty darn good return on investment, even in my world. I was wondering, is the major source of that follow-on investment, is that federal grants?
Yes. So in one of the slides, I highlighted 88% of that 69 million came from federal awards, most of them NIH.
Very good. And the other question is, if there's no additional funding, what happens to all that stuff in the biobanks?
Our plan is to keep storing them, and when investigators need those samples for a project, then we will provide them.
But that must be expensive to keep all those specimens stored.
So right now, the samples are currently stored in 3 regional biobanking centers, UT Southwestern, Texas Children's, and Christus Children's in San Antonio. We are, with additional funding that other investigators have secured from federal grants, we do have funds to support some personnel to help maintain the lab at UT Southwestern and Texas Children's. The lab at in San Antonio, they've expressed that they would have the manpower to keep those samples until they need to be accessed.
I think our plan would have to be to build in funding the storage of those specimens and processing into other grants that we were awarded, which, I mean, for a new grant, I would write in some support to maintain the storage of those specimens, so that they can any analyses that I'd want to do, which would take away from other things that I'd want to do with that federally funded award. But that would be, I think, one of the main impacts would be that we would have to, if the grant were to end, stop recruiting new specimens, because we wouldn't be able to fund all the research personnel that are at all the different sites for the prospective longitudinal collections. We would essentially have what we have, and that would be the cohort, and we would do everything we could through additional funding from outside grants to support the continued maintenance of that infrastructure to keep those specimens stored, and then do any additional analysis we wanted to do using additional grants that we would obtain to do that. But we wouldn't be able to continue the prospective longitudinal collection.
Well, let me ask the question a little bit differently. Is there any chance, if there's no additional funding, that those specimens would have to be destroyed?
I think we would do everything in our power not to do that.
Yeah.
Each of the institutions that are currently housing the biospecimen banks are very invested in the resource, and that would be a terrible, terrible shame if that were to have to happen. So I would imagine that institutions would also try to prioritize maintaining those banks for future resource.
Thank you.
Yes, Dr. Hernandez.
Good morning. Great presentation, Doc. In your slide, let's see, 2.7. So this data is from 1995 to 2017. Is that what this data represents on this map?
Yes, 1995 to 2017.
Correct.
new
Did you by any
cases.
chance have 2017 on for now?
We're working on getting this data.
Okay.
It takes a little time.
In reference to the biobanks, and why you brought that up, you mentioned only 3 in the state?
Yeah, so of the 8 access sites, we kind of just consolidate to those 3.
In 3. Okay. And with these patients that are scattered all over the state, I'm curious, since leukemia is the predominant one, where do they initiate their treatments? At those locations, or do they have to travel to Houston or somewhere?
So for most of those sites, they are treated at their local institution, but
So
if,
El Paso,
Yes.
all, they get initiated there
yes,
for
but if,
protocols and.
yes, those are all, they're all COG sites.
Great.
Yeah.
Great
I
job.
think the only time that they might transfer to another institution might be if they have a more complicated procedure that, for example, bone marrow transplant that their
Sure.
institution might
Yes, ma'am.
have. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, thank you. Terrific. I echo the compliments that you've already received. I just wondered, the $60 million in follow-on or $70 million in follow-on funding, is that directly to people working in the access program, or is that from researchers making use of the data? Looks like I got it on the nose
Second-
there
Yeah,
from
the
Dr.
second one.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's from others using the data.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Margot?
I'm just curious, given the geographic spread of Texas, are there any particular childhood cancers focused in different areas of prevalence? I mean, high numbers of, I mean, is there something on the border that's different than Central Texas or North Texas, or what? What are you seeing out there so far?
That's a great question. I think we'd have to look into the data a little bit more, but I think that I don't think there's a geographic distribution. I don't think there are hotspots of certain childhood cancers yet. We haven't really explored enough to answer that.
Well, I would
question.
say there have been a few areas where there have been increased concentrations, but nothing definitively has come up with why that's happening. But what I would also add is that through Access, the baseline demographic and the questionnaire asks a lot of the environmental exposures and birth-related exposure factors that would allow, with a sufficient sample size and population, further exploration of those questions of etiology and risk factors in certain areas, because that is really key data. That's kind of the foundational epidemiological kind of infrastructure of Access. And the reason why it was created was around etiology. So we do have an amazing resource that could help us understand risk based on those data elements that are collected beginning at diagnosis, and that ask parents to trace back even birth exposures that might be related to later onset cancer incidence. And there have been some works that have leveraged Access data looking at, for example, correlations between birth defects and later onset cancer incidence that were collected using Access data.
I just know the border is different than other parts of
Yeah.
Texas, and there's
Yeah.
high incidence of fatty liver cancer in the El Paso, West Texas area, and those things. And of course, we're a region and not just a bifurcated area. And but one of the things that's unique about our region and Juarez, El Paso, and southern New Mexico is we have as many as 4 generations you can do DNA testing on.
Yeah. Oh.
And because of the culture and the families that remain there, which has always been frustrating to me that pharma didn't do more in our area because of the availability of the multiple generations to research. So anyway, thank you.
And that
Great.
is an interesting aspect too, because right now Access is collecting parental information in DNA, but hasn't expanded to further generations. And that you raise a really interesting question that could be further explored with.
Great
with seeing.
presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Can you follow up with that data if you don't have, when you have time to email it to us? Because I'm curious as well, because you have a bunch of hotspots here, the yellow, right, on your map. And what is the difference between geographically when it comes to leukemia, solid tumors, whatever it is? I'm just curious if there's hotspots per region, as I pointed out.
And some of
We can
those might
follow
be population-based, like areas with metropolitan centers where there's a higher incidence simply because there's a lot more people.
Yeah,
living
but it may
there,
be
so
that
might-
Houston versus San Antonio may
Yeah.
hire, maybe they have more brain tumors than versus El Paso. So that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, we can follow up on it.
Thank you.
But your slide 27 is population. You're counting in each of those counties. Is that what this is? This is not per 100,000 or per thousand. It's just like 300 in one county,
Correct.
700 in another. And
Yeah,
if
it
you're in
doesn't-
Houston, 700 is about the same as Austin having 150 or something. Fair?
Correct. It doesn't include the rate.
But
It's
that's what
just
you're
the
going to bring
number of
back to us
counts.
is maybe some rate information that's statistically and not random variation.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you to Dr. Hong and Dr. Gramachis. A wonderful presentation. We appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. Doyle will provide the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Morning, Oversight Committee members. Dr. Hong's presentation is a perfect way for me to start my CEO report to you. As you may remember, CPRIT statute requires the CEO to report on the progress and continued merit of each research program. So you will find my report beginning at page 3-35 in your meeting book. With the grants that you'll consider today, CPRIT will have awarded 2,222 grants to worthy cancer research and prevention projects throughout Texas. Like the Access Core facility at Baylor College of Medicine, these projects each are making progress every day in the audacious mission to prevent, detect, treat, and survive cancer. We measure our progress at CPRIT and the cancer and cancer precursors that we have detected early, the future cancer cases forever prevented through vaccinations and education, new discoveries every day that fuel the next early detection method, the clinical trials that make novel new treatments available to the sickest patients now, and the drugs, devices, and diagnostics available on the market to detect and treat cancer. In short, the lives that have been saved and extended through the work done in Texas by our grantees, funded by CPRIT, and approved by you. So we time our annual CEO report for the meeting that follows the publication of CPRIT's annual report. This is no accident. The 2025 annual report is a showcase of the work that CPRIT grantees are doing and the progress that is being made right now in Texas. I would like to recognize everyone for their contribution to this year's report, which highlights the most common and most lethal cancers affecting Texans. This is truly a collective effort among everyone at CPRIT as well as our grantees. But in particular, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Mark Leffler, Justin Rand, Bridget Barstow, Sharanya Vidalia, Shannon Cusick, and Royce Hart. Their contributions are significant. I'd also like to recognize our newest employee at CPRIT, Dr. Nan Young Hong. I think she is here today. Thank you. She is a cancer biologist by training with experience in translational research and cross-functional program support across both academic and industry settings. So she is our newest academic research program manager. So when you get a chance, please welcome her. And that concludes my report to you. Happy to answer any questions, but excited about this meeting and everything that we will see, especially with the 2 advisory committee reports. It's wonderful to kick off with the grantee presentation.
Are there any questions for Ms. Doyle?
Comment.
Yes,
Just one,
Mr. Montgomery.
just to say, congratulations on the annual report. Not only the data that's collected, but the way it was presented is really first class and terrific. Great job.
Well, and that is, a testament to the work that our communications team does, and it is, there's so many different ways that we can talk about what we do. And, with 16 years now, we just had our 16th year anniversary for making the very first awards. We have a lot to show for what's been done at CPRIT, and, being able to tell it in a way that I think makes it successful is, that's what the annual report is for.
And I know Mr. Montgomery wants to read more of those curriculum vitaes for all of the assignments. He's mentioned that to me. That's his kind of academic focus.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Doyle. The chair recognizes Mr. Burgess to present the Chief Compliance Officer's report, which is, of course, the highlight of our Oversight Committee meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Payne. Oversight Committee members, always a pleasure. I do want to comment on Mr. Margot's wardrobe choice today. I had debated the light blue shirt or white, and I chose the white. So you'll find my compliance update behind tab 4. Just a few quick things and to answer questions at the end. Again, as you're aware, we have about $1.5 billion of grants under active management right now, and about 540 grants. We receive about that many each month on average reports. And anecdotally, in May, I'll bring you some real numbers, but I do believe we're trending down for delinquent reporting. As of the 1st of February, we had about 7 reports. So that's very, very good in the right direction. We processed about 558 second level reviews of FSRs the last 3 months. Been a busy 3 months for desk reviews. We did 14 of those. And on sites, we did 5 of those in November, December, and January. You may recall in December of every year, we require all active grantees to complete an attestation, and it's a opportunity to self-report compliance with policies and procedures and internal processes. And I think now, as of this report, we had 1 outstanding, but I believe they've all been submitted. And also in that attestation, we require product development grantees to, again, verify they meet the Texas location criteria. And there's 7 criteria available, and they have to meet at least 4 of those. So we check it then, and then when we do on-sites annually, we check it again. We want to make sure you're not an abandoned trailer in West Texas. So, in terms of training, we conducted 3 new grantee trainings, mostly for product development. And we did a new authorized signing official training, and we're going to have our first annual compliance required training series in March. And we provide 3 opportunities a year for grantees to attend that. And the one last thing I'll mention, you probably remember that we said the state auditor informed us last year that we would be the one of the lucky agencies to get an efficiency audit that has been initiated. We had our entrance conference with the state auditor in January, and we have begun interviews with state auditor staff, and have been submitting all the requested documentation, financials, standard operating procedures, lots of documents we're uploading to the secure portal, and that will go through tentatively July or June rather, one of those months, a long way from here. And at that time, they'll produce a final report for us. Again, this efficiency audit is aimed to determine whether we are administering selected resources in an efficient manner. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Burgess? Okay, thank you. Turning to the certification of the award slates that we will consider today, Mr. Burgess provided the written report certifying that the proposed awards and review process complied with CPRIT statute and administrative rules. Are there any questions for Mr. Burgess? Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair recognizes Dr. Ebert to introduce the Program Integration Committee's grant award recommendations. He will also provide the academic research program update.
Thank you and good morning again. It's always hard to keep the excitement rolling from the compliance report, right? So, but I'll do the best that we can. We had, I'm going to provide the update for the fiscal year 26.2 and fiscal year 26.3 recruitment awards, which were approved by the Program Integration Committee. We had some terrific candidates this year. Really excited about this slate. I think one of the things that did stand out was that the Scientific Review Committee, peer review committee, actually selected 5 awards to be really funded. We didn't have that much money, and so you'll remember at the last meeting we reduced the levels of some of our recruitment awards, and that is going to allow us to actually fund 4 or 5 of these. So it's really fantastic. So we're really happy about this. It's going to keep us on budget and yet support numerous recruitments across Texas. So super excited. So if I can have the first slide. Maybe So with the first table just shows you that we're recommending 3 recruitment of established investigators, 1 recruitment of rising stars, and 1 first-time tenure-track faculty. Now, this first-time tenure-track faculty member, we're actually reaching back to 26.1. This was the application we deferred. And the reason we want to bring it forward now is we know we can't defer recruitments forever. We'd love to wait until the end of the fiscal year, but if we do that, we risk losing the recruitment. So we really wanted to look at this, and we're going to fund it a little bit reduced level, which allows us still to stay within our budget. So we think we're trying to hit that perfect medium. So we'll see what happens. Next slide, please. I have these. So in terms of the priorities addressed, of course, we hit the recruitment of outstanding cancer researchers to Texas with all of the 5 applications, but as well, we're bringing in other priorities such as expanding innovative clinical trials and computational oncology and analytic methods. So this is really important. And now I'd like to just introduce you to some of our investigators. The first is Dr. Daniela Mattei. And she's being recruited by the Methodist Hospital Research Institute, and she will be the new cancer center director there. And she is a very, very impressive investigator, coming from Northwestern University, an expert in gynecological cancer, especially ovarian and endometrial cancer. She's led many multi-investigator grants and clinical trials. And that's just the perfect person to lead your cancer center. And so that's just terrific. I also want to just highlight a fun fact that she is currently the Diana Princess of Wales Professor in Cancer Research at Northwestern. So kind of an unusual title, and willing to give it up to come to Texas, we hope. So that's, I think, just a terrific recruit for Methodist. The next investigator is Dr. Alexander Atabekian, and he's being nominated by the University of Texas at Dallas. And Dr. Atabekian also has a very interesting background in that he did his PhD in Zurich, Switzerland. And then he was recruited eventually to Scripps, Florida, which actually was sold to the University of Florida system for $1, oddly enough. And so many of the faculty were destabilized by that event. He moved to University of Illinois, Chicago, And now he's thinking about moving to Texas. So a terrific investigator. He really works in an area called chemoproteomics. So he's a chemist, but he uses small molecules to look at protein-protein interactions and target specific residues to make drugs as well. So really a terrific investigator and a great catch for the University of Texas at Dallas. Let's see if we can have the next slide. Thank you. And then the third established investigator is Dr. Mark Lemon. I've been aware of Dr. Lemon's work for many years because he's really probably the world's expert on the structural biology of the EGF receptor. EGF receptor is mutated in 10% of lung cancer, obviously a big problem in Texas, and many other tumor types. And so it's one of the first directed therapies where we had a small molecule, but it was Dr. Lemon's work on the structure and the biophysics and the signaling of the EGFR receptor that's allowed those drugs to be refined. And now we're on third or fourth line of EGF receptor. And they've just gotten better and better and better. And we can even target some of the mutations that cause resistance. So, and it's really due to his work. And he's being recruited from Yale. He started at Penn, went to Yale to start a Cancer Biology Institute, and he's again been tapped to be a chair at Yale. And now UT Southwestern wants to bring him in as chair of biophysics. So terrific recruit, lots of leadership experience, kind of exactly the type of person you might expect a UT Southwestern to bring in, and he'll be a terrific recruit if we can land him. And then the next slide is our one rising star nominee, Dr. Yang Ju, and he's also being recruited by UT Southwestern. He's coming from Johns Hopkins, and he is an expert in theragnostics. So this is the creation of small molecules where you can both image the tumor and then use that imaging agent as a drug. So you can see that the molecule is hitting the tumor before you increase the dose and actually then hit it. And then you can follow up and see how well the drug did. It's pretty remarkable stuff. So he's already published 86 papers and truly is a rising star. And so he's a great recruit and would be coming to UT Southwestern. And our final recruit is Dr. Akash Gupta, and he's coming from the University of Houston. And we don't get a lot of recruitments from the University of Houston. This is another reason we'd like to pull this one from 26.1 forward now to fund this. He's coming from MIT, so terrific background. And he works in an area of nanomedicine, making lipid nanoparticles to encapsulate immunotherapies. So really a novel area for Texas, especially University of Houston. He's already published 30 papers as a fellow, and he has an H-index of 24. That means he already has 24 of those 30 as high impact papers. This is really remarkable. So we're really excited about these recruitments. And should I stop now for a vote, or should I go ahead with the update? I'm going to go ahead with the update.
Yes, let's go
Okay,
ahead with you.
fantastic. I want to sort of bring back the presentation we just had from the Access Core and just highlight that because our focus a little bit today is on childhood cancers. And I just want to point out that we had a great response to our multi-investigator research awards for childhood, adolescent, and young adult cancer survivorship. That core, those samples, those longitudinal samples are going to be really impactful. And so we're really excited. We have 10 of these applications, really excited. The other RFA that I want to highlight for this group especially is the Rural Oncology Trials Accelerator Award. We have 6 of those. I'm really excited by those, and I've already read through them, and in my opinion, they're really good. So I think one of the priorities we're going to have one of our challenges is obviously we've got requests for $147 million. We don't have $147 million, but we're going to really prioritize some of these high impact awards that will affect other parts of the state, especially the rural oncology. We're going to see if we can scrape together as much money as we can to fund as many of those as possible, because this is really terrific. And then just to end, I just want to talk about, let everybody know that we're now open with 27.1. We're carrying forward the RFAs that we had last year. Last year, we had 515 applications. We're a little worried that we might get 600 or 700, but that's going to be a good problem to have. So we're excited about 27.1, and that'll be closing in April, at the end of April. So we'll be able to report at the May meeting about how many of these we've gotten. So with that, I'll stop and take any questions.
Okay, thank you for the PIC recommendations and the programmatic update. Are there any questions for Dr. Hebert? Okay, thank you. Mr. Burgess has certified compliance for the Academic Research Award process. It is my understanding that no Oversight Committee member reported a conflict with any of the proposed awards. Members, you have a list of applications and grant amounts recommended by the PIC for the Academic Research Grant Awards. We will approve the PIC's recommendation if 2/3 of the Oversight Committee members present and voting agree. There are 3 academic research recruitment award slates constituting 5 grant recommendations. Rather than taking a separate vote on each grant mechanism, I will ask for a vote to approve all the slates. If a member wants to consider one or more award recommendations separately from the vote on all the slates, please make a motion to do so now. I will entertain a motion to approve the PIC's 5 recommendations for the following academic research grant award mechanisms: recruitment of established investigators, recruitment of first-time tenure-track faculty members, and recruitment of rising stars. All in favor vote aye. Any opposed? Hearing approval from at least 2/3 of the members present and voting, the motion carries. I will entertain a motion delegating contract negotiation authority to the CEO and CPRIT staff, and to authorize the CEO to sign the contracts on behalf of CPRIT.
Second.
All in favor vote aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The chair recognizes Dr. Rekas. Hello, good morning. To provide the prevention program update.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present on our prevention program. Excited to be here with you all today, following some really wonderful presentations here at my second Oversight Committee meeting. So thank you for having me. We have nothing that we'll be voting on today, but wanted to share an update about some things happening with the program. I'm going to bring some slides up for me. The first slide we'll have is really an overview of the prevention program. And so I know you've seen some of these things before. We're excited to share that within the prevention program, there are a total of 317 grants to date. Oh, I believe I can click these. 317 grants to date totaling $407 million. And one of the most, I think, exciting pieces of information about the impact of that program is more than 11 million education and clinical services that have been provided through that program. In our stellar annual report, which we just talked about, we were able to share that in fiscal year 25 alone, through the prevention program, more than 1 million services were delivered across all 254 counties in the state of Texas, which is really quite remarkable in my still new to CPRIT mind. So excited to be able to share that with you all as well too. I won't walk through all of these, but just wanted to share some of the current status of our prevention program. We are planning to launch later this month, right around the corner, our next RFA. So I'm planning to release that here in FY26 as part of cycle 1 for FY27. And we'll bring back the recommendations from the Program Integration Committee at the November meeting. In the last cycle, or the last year, we did 1 cycle, but in this next round, we plan to do, next year we do plan to have 2 cycles within the prevention program. And those will be the RFAs that you all saw at the last meeting, our cancer screening early detection focused on delivering evidence-based clinical services across cancer screening types, our primary prevention of cancer, which are focused on multi-level evidence-based interventions in a wide variety of primary prevention areas, as well as our dissemination of CPRIT-funded cancer control interventions, taking those things that have already been known and proven and effective through CPRIT funding and bringing them out to more places in Texas or more individuals within the same areas. So we're excited to see. We do anticipate a large number of applications. We received almost double in one cycle last year that we typically receive in a year. So we anticipate and are excited to see, and we're going to promote and share this RFA and expect to see a number of applicants. We did make a few changes this time. I tried to keep it similar in my 4 months here, but we did make a couple of changes. We took a deep dive at what reviewers had been commenting on, questions they'd brought up, areas of confusion that they might have had, or things they wanted to see more of in their proposals. And so we really tried to use that to make any updates and make sure that we're providing as clear instruction as possible for the applicants. The first change we made was to require goals from the Texas Cancer Plan. As you know, that's part of our mandate here at CPRIT is to help implement the Texas Cancer Plan. And while a number of the applicants oftentimes mention the Texas Cancer Plan, they're not specifically required to do so. So this time we are asking people to tell us how they'll be advancing the Texas Cancer Plan through their application. We also updated the geographic and high need areas to ensure that we're requesting applications in the areas of Texas that have high incidence, high cancer incidence, high mortality, or high risk factors associated with that particular RFA. We also enhanced the partnerships section. One of the things that we hear from reviewers is really making sure that community-based organizations, clinic partners, other partners in local areas or within the state are being leveraged and utilized. That comes up a lot as a sustainability component as well too. So really wanted to enhance that. It's always been in the RFA, but just tried to bring some more clarity and enhancement around that. We also added language requesting additional information, making it very clear that in our cancer screening and early detection grants, that all applicants are required to explain how they'll navigate people to diagnostic services as well as clinical services as needed, cancer treatment as needed. They do a great job of that in the applications, and having just reviewed a large number of annual reports, I can tell you our grantees do an excellent job of explaining that and sharing how they're going about doing that. But we wanted to make sure that was very clear in the application process. We also added some additional resources to help the applicants related to long-term sustainability and measuring their impact, making sure that they are aware of some things that they can be thinking through and adding in as they're thinking about what they would do with this project if there was no longer CPRIT funding, or to bring in their work to other places or in other areas. So really making sure they're telling their best story, collecting the strongest data, and thinking about that long-term sustainability from the outset. And then we just made a few changes for improvement of overall flow and clarity. So those are some of the changes we've made. I think these were consistent with things that we heard from the prevention subcommittee, certainly from our prevention advisory committee as well. So I wanted to share those with you. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight the members of our Prevention Advisory Committee. On this, a little bit later in this meeting, you will be asked to approve some additional members. And so I just wanted you to see the full list of Prevention Advisory Committee here. This new slate would really help us to have a broad representation across the state of Texas, across academic, non-academic, public health groups as well too. So that will be from Ms. Doyle later in this presentation, but wanted to let you see that all together. And then you'll also have a wonderful presentation in just a little bit from Dr. Keith Argenbright, who is the vice chair of our Prevention Advisory Committee. So just wanted to highlight those things for you as well. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Reckes? Oh, Dr. Hernandez.
Do you really have a CPRIT program in every county in Texas?
There is a CPRIT program serving every county in Texas. Yes, there sure are.
Amazing.
Yes, there's on average about 7 projects that are serving every county.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 10. The chair recognizes Dr. Smith to provide the Chief Product Development Officer's report.
Good morning. I'm still here. Right, for the time being. No slides today, unfortunately. Just what's that?
You came back from Egypt.
Oh yeah, I came back from Egypt. That's right. No slides today because pretty short presentation. We're in 26.2 right now. We only had about 7 million left over from that last round. So it was actually 74 million. We negotiated down about 10%. So we've got 67 million on the 9 companies. So we've got 7.1 million left for what we did last time was basically CPRIT companies that are in good standing and are making progress. Were invited to apply for the funding. They had to be after 20 before 25/1, so we kind of limited the number of companies. So we opened up that RFA about 3-4 weeks ago. Got 9 applications. They're being reviewed right now by the peer review. And so that should take a couple weeks, and then we'll go through a process where we'll winnow down the number. We'll interview them for an hour, and then in May, we should be able to present them to you guys at the Oversight Committee. The only other thing I really have is we have 27/1 coming up. That'll start in April. We're going to use the same RFAs that we did the last time around, slightly updated, but with no major changes. Seed applications still capped at $3 million. And then we'll have the RFA for therapeutics, device and diagnostics, and the new technologies. So we need to approve those, I believe. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Dr. Smith? Okay, thank you. I will entertain a motion approving the fiscal year 2027 product development request for applications as presented by Dr. Smith.
Second.
All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The chair recognizes Mr. Graves from Weaver and Tidwell to present the internal audit report.
Good morning. We do have a short report this morning. Before I jump into that, on page 8.1 of your materials is our status document. We have 3 audits for this year. The status of the first 2 of information security and the intellectual property compliance are both in progress. We will kick off the IT security audit next week, and we have a planning meeting with management for the intellectual property compliance audit next week as well. We did release, and in your packet, starting on page 8.3, is the report over the SAO State Efficiency Advisory Audit. Just for your knowledge, Texas Government Code Section 327 went into effect September 1st of 2025. That requires an efficiency audit to be conducted by the state auditor's office before the year before sunset. And because that's an advisory engagement, we didn't have a report rating. There are no particular findings. That's more consultative in nature. It was an effort to help prepare the agency and do essentially a pre-audit before the SAO comes in. And the SAO is in now. We did have a few minor recommendations really centering around just tying some activity reporting back to some of the state statutes, as well as some updates to budget framework to make it clear where funds are spent efficiently and effectively. That's really the summary of that. It's a pretty short report, again, because there's no findings and no overall report rating. In addition to that, we provided our updated table for you on page 8-2. That just is a summary of all the findings. Of note, the very bottom table shows 9 findings that are the only findings that are open that are from last year's reports. We'll be following up on those in April 2026, so coming up this spring. So again, the agency's been timely in remediating any other findings, and these are just from last year's reports, and the first follow-ups will be this spring. So with that, that's all the remarks I had planned. If you have questions, I can pause for those.
Any questions for Mr. Graves? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will entertain a motion approving the SAO State Efficiency Audit Readiness Assessment Audit Advisory Report.
Second.
All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. The chair recognizes Ms. Doyle to present her appointments to the Scientific Research and Prevention Program Committees.
Oversight Committee members, my memo is behind tab 9. There are 20 appointments that I recommend to the peer review committees. These were all presented to the Board Governance Subcommittee, who voted to recommend approval of these appointments to the Oversight Committee. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Doyle? Is there a motion to approve the CEO's 20 appointments to the Scientific and Prevention Program Committees? All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Turning to agenda item 13, I recognize Ms. Doyle to present the presiding officer's new appointments to the Clinical Trials, Prevention and Product Development Advisory Committees.
So members, behind tab 10, you'll see my memo with the recommendations for the advisory committee appointments. These are the presiding officer advisory committee appointments. And the Board Governance Subcommittee considered these also and recommends that the Oversight Committee approve these new members. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Doyle? Okay. Dr. Reckes, will you introduce Dr. Keith Argenbright to present the Prevention Advisory Committee report?
So glad to be back. I'm here to introduce Dr. Keith Argenbright, who is a professor in the NCI designated Harold C. Simmons Comprehensive Cancer Center at UT Southwestern Medical Center. And he is additionally the director of the Moncrief Cancer Institute, an affiliate of the Simmons Comprehensive Cancer Center. I want to make sure I got that right. Moncrief Cancer Institute received its first prevention grant from CPRIT in 2010. And Dr. Argenbright has a long history with 22 CPRIT grants totaling more than $40 million for cancer screening programs, which have grown in quite a bit of size over the time that he's been a CPRIT grantee. But today he is here representing our Prevention Advisory Committee as its vice chair and is going to share the recommendations from the Prevention Advisory Committee for the prevention program.
Thank you, Dr. Reckes, and thank you, members of the Oversight Committee, for having us. And again, thank you for your persistence and vigilance in cancer prevention. It's something that those of us who work in that space just have a real heart for. So thank you for that. So if I could have the first slide, please. So again, you've seen this slide before. Dr. Reckes shared this with you, and you just authorized the addition of the 2 members there at the bottom. And just wanted to kind of let you know that when we look to expand our committee composition, we're always looking for new geographies, people who bring unique perspectives to the prevention space, and those who represent areas of Texas that aren't always thought of whenever we are looking for experts. And we've found experts in a Laredo Public Health Department, found an expert in the Rose, and I know you're familiar with that because that's been a grantee that you've generously funded since the very beginning, and of course our West Texas colleagues at Texas Tech. So thank you very much for that. Again, you saw this slide that Dr. Reckes shared with you. $407 million invested in prevention thus far. 54,000 cancers and precursors that have been found through that. All 254 counties have been represented. And the thing that I think that we're most proud of and really focused on, and you'll hear this a little bit more, is trying to use prevention to move the stage. Moving the stage of diagnosis from a later stage to an earlier stage, where the survival is greater when the cancers are found at an earlier stage. And as you'll see as I go through this, the treatment dollars for earlier stage cancers are much less than the treatment dollars needed for late stage cancer. So this is what we in the prevention space are really focused on, is moving that stage from a later stage to an earlier stage. So again, we do focus on the medically underserved counties, and you can kind of see where those are on the left, and then the active grants and the CPRIT prevention portfolio. And you can kind of do kind of a mind mosaic. You can kind of see how those two meld there together. So next, please. So I'm going to explain this one to you in the context of basically primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. So when we think of primary prevention, we think of activities that prevent cancer from ever happening in the first place. So tobacco cessation, HPV elimination would be the example of a primary prevention activity. Secondary prevention is early detection. So mammograms and FIT testing and colonoscopy and low-dose CT screens for lung cancer. Those are all secondary activities. And then tertiary activities is cancer survivorship. And so you can see in this slide that CPRIT has invested in all three, both primary, tertiary, and secondary. And what I think is really very impressive about this is that you have done this where your primary prevention and your secondary prevention are almost equal. You're investing about 46 grants thus far, or active grants in the primary space. That would be the vaccination, the tobacco-related, alcohol, and obesity. And you've got 53 grants that are in the secondary space. And I think that's a very nice balance. And we at the Prevention Advisory Committee are always looking at that and appreciative for your continuing balancing of those primary and secondary prevention activities. Again, you can see that the active projects focus on breast and colorectal. As you would imagine, those are some of the highly prevalent cancers that we have in our state. The thing that, we are appreciative of your understanding that whenever you invest in HPV-related prevention activities, you're preventing multiple different cancers. You're preventing cervical cancer, penile cancer, head and neck cancer. And so that one primary prevention activity is enabling us to prevent cancer in several different cancer spaces. Our FY26 recommendations, just to review those, the first two, accelerating the research and developing the cancer registry to integrate with the cancer plan. We feel as though that those are on very good track, if not completed at this point. And then you'll see in FY27, one of the things that we recommended from the Prevention Advisory Committee is to really continue to scale the collaboration. We feel as though that with all of the different prevention projects, there's a lot of opportunity to learn from one another, to collaborate in order to look at best practices, in order to see what are the things that seem to be working in particular different communities. And we're very grateful for the CPRIT infrastructure that will allow those prevention grantees to come together and have that dialogue and exchange. We had a great discussion at our most recent meeting about whether or not that we needed to recommend another statewide CPRIT collaborative RFA, and we are recommending, especially based upon the number of applications and the limited funding, that those funds be put back into the actual screening activities themselves, and that collaboration would occur through the CPRIT platform and the great work that the CPRIT prevention officer does, as well as her staff, at getting people together and ensuring that the collaboration and the dissemination of that collaboration actually does occur. Next slide, please. So going to just kind of take a couple of slides here to share with you some insights from our CPRIT grantees and real stories that are happening on the ground. And this one is about a grantee saying we're building a pattern of regular screening into a population that wasn't getting it. And that really highlights, I think, the importance of cancer screening awareness and the importance of getting that message out to the population. So that's something that we really do try to focus on, is not just providing the screenings, but educating patients as to not only why these screenings are important, but where you can get them. And the fact that this screening is not a one-time event, but in most screenings, you have to have this the following year and the year after that, and really beginning to get that education out there. The next thing that we hear from our grantees is our geographic reach and our focus on the underserved populations. And this grantee says we're providing prevention services to 50 counties, which is essentially the geographic size of the state of West Virginia. And I know that several different grantees have that type of a geographic reach. This grantee says we're saving Texas money by finding early stage cancers. And this is really kind of two messages, right? That we really try to move the stage from later stage to earlier stage. And that whenever we do that, we can save Texans money because we're not spending the treatment dollars for those stage 3 and 4 cancers, but instead we're saving those saving lives and spending less money whenever we're finding that at stage 1 and 2, and that we never lose the sight of the economic impact of our work. And then finally, we hear from another grantee about the collaboration that has helped us with other groups, because we realize that this is something that we can't do by ourselves alone. And so again, as you heard me say, we do have currently an active CPRIT grant that does promote collaboration, and I'm very involved with that grant, and it's doing wonderful work. But we also have other collaborative efforts that are grassroots and have not required additional CPRIT funding. And so that's the reason for our recommendation that says we're going to recommend that you pause on those collaboration grants for the FY27 cycle and reinvest those dollars in what we know are going to be some very, very worthy, some very innovative, some very worthwhile prevention grant applications that are going to come across. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Oh, yes, Mr. Montgomery.
Dr. Argenbright, thank you very much for coming and for a terrific presentation. What are if CPRIT funding, CPRIT's currently scheduled to expire at some point in the future, what are the prospects in the prevention area for continued funding in the absence of CPRIT?
It's a great question. So I will kind of tell you from my own personal experience that CPRIT is a very important funding source for what we do, but it's not the only funding source for what we do. In one of the prior presentations, we kind of talked about leverage. And personally, my organization has been able to get about $44 million thus far from federal sources, about $40 million from state sources. And those really balance against each other, right? Because whenever I'm applying for a federal grant, I talk about the state support. And when I apply for a state grant, I talk about the federal support. And so, and then we have about $6 million personally of local foundation. So would it make a dent in our screening activities? Absolutely. But they would not stop, but they would be reduced probably in my own particular instance by about 50%. We'd still have the federal, we'd still have the local, and we'd lose the state.
Keith, great presentation.
Thank you.
Just a couple of quick questions. On one of your slides, you say that finding cancers early saves money.
It does.
Could you quantify that for how much money Texas saves by the early detection program that CPRIT is sponsoring?
So we've been tracking this in my organization for about the past 6 years. And across all cancers, it looks like, and so if you think about what could we use to compare ourselves to, our results to, okay? Well, we use the Texas Cancer Registry because the Texas Cancer Registry catalogs every cancer by stage. And so what we found in our group by providing providing education, early detection, and navigation to diagnosis, navigation to treatment, that we can move that stage by about 20%. So we're about 20% better than the Texas Cancer Registry at finding early stage cancers. That's early stage is going to be stage 1 and probably 2A. And we find about 20% more of those than you would expect if we're just using the Texas Cancer Registry. Now, we're currently looking at the economic impact of that, and I'm working with the health economist, and we're actually going to be publishing that data within the next, hopefully, several months or so. I will give you a sneak peek. It's probably about somewhere between $8 and $12 of every dollar invested. You save that by not having those late stage treatments that are extremely expensive. But we're still analyzing that. It could go up, it could go down, but we plan to publish that within the next couple of months or so.
Could you quantitate that in terms instead of average dollars per patient, but how much does the state of Texas save in total by early diagnosis?
Again, I'm not a health economist. I mean, we'll be looking at that, but you're looking at the hundreds of millions, potentially even billions of dollars.
Yeah, that'd be a great number to know because, as you know, we have to go to the legislature and explain why we're spending this money.
And that is, I am privileged to be able to speak with the legislators the same way you are, and that is my lead to them, is let me show you how this can save you money.
Really good. One other quick question, and this has to do with primary prevention.
Okay.
So you showed data with HPV vaccinations. Where are we in the world of primary prevention for common cancers like lung cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer?
So lung is tobacco cessation, right? I mean, we pretty much know that we can't eliminate all lung cancers, but we can eliminate most lung cancers with tobacco cessation. Breast and colorectal, there is really good evidence that shows that fighting obesity, having a good diet, having good exercise is a primary prevention activity for those cancers in particular. I think the frontier here is really beginning to understand the genetic basis associated with those breast and colorectal cancers. And that's a little ways away. But as far as the primary prevention now for breast and colorectal, it would be that we have the science for is obesity reduction, better nutrition, and exercise. So that's a little bit out of my area of expertise. I think that would probably come more from the scientific area, and then it would be turned over to me in order to get it out to a whole lot of people at one time. And so I once you have that, I can help you get that to a whole lot of people at one time, but it's not my area of expertise in order to advise us how to develop that.
I just wanted to add one point, just that from the Perryman report, which was released with the most recent annual report, that shows that $27.82 in treatment costs are saved for every dollar invested in prevention, just to your prior question. So, you know, we can look at those numbers too across the prevention program as well.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank
both
you for
very
having me.
much. Great presentation. Dr. Hebert, will you introduce Dr. Richard Gorlick and Dr. Will Parsons to present the Advisory Committee on Childhood Cancers report?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a real pleasure to have Dr. Gorlick here, and Dr. Parsons, I think, is joining us virtually. So I don't want to take any much time, but I just want to remind you that Dr. Gorlick is the chair of our childhood advisory, our advisory committee on childhood cancer, and he's also chair of pediatrics at MD Anderson. Dr. Parsons is vice chair of the committee, and he is director of Texas Children's Cancer and Hematology Center. So two real giants that we have advising us. This is a fantastic privilege to have these two investigators advise us, and we're thrilled to hear their report today.
So thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you so much for, once again, the privilege of myself and Dr. Parsons being able to present. Not really the subject of today, but a lot is going on with pediatric cancer in Houston. So Dr. Parsons had to sort of stay back in Houston, and I got the privilege of coming on to present in person. But we'll do it together so that you know this is really coming from both of us. From there, you're going to notice that there's a couple of less slides in what I present relative to what's in the meeting book. We wanted to share all of the content, but cognizant of the amount of time we're allotted, we shortened it by a couple of slides so that we had a chance of making it inside the allotted period of time. So just outlining what we're going to talk about, we're going to just talk about childhood cancer in Texas. We're going to summarize the pediatric achievements by CPRIT specifically. We're going to talk about our ongoing steps, our strategy, and we're going to summarize and go on to next steps. So whenever we sort of talk about childhood cancer, we have to start talking about really the magnitude of the problem. And really, if we look at the United States, concordant with the large population that exists in Texas, plus the fact that Texas is a relatively young state. Texas has the second highest population of patients with cancer in the United States. And if you looked at the number of children with cancer, it's 10% of the total number of kids with cancer in the United States are diagnosed among folks in Texas. So this is really a rare problem, but at the same time, a big problem. And if you look at it sort of in terms of numbers, there's 1,800 kids under 20 diagnosed yearly. And what we increasingly talk about is the adolescent and young adult population, which intersects with the early onset cancers. And if you include those folks, you're talking about almost 8,000 cases a year. So this is not a small problem. We know kids in Texas are going to hit 8.5 million. This is in cancer patients, total population by 2060. This relates to we're the second youngest state with a median age of 35. And basically investing in pediatric research is always investing in the future. And again, population of Texas children, another great fun fact, under age 6 is greater than Oklahoma, Louisiana, Florida, and New Mexico combined, meaning there's so many ways to combine these things, but this is a big state with big childhood cancer problem. So adolescent and young adult cancer, defining this a little bit further, this is the folks that are 15 to 39. They have relatively favorable overall survival, but worse than childhood cancer overall. AYA is sort of the phenomena where pediatric cancers appear in folks who are slightly older, and it's sort of paired with early onset cancer, which is patients the same age, but adult cancers appearing early. So those are like two sides of the same coin. And there's been a lot of media attention to colorectal cancer and the fact that those rates are rising, particularly in young people, and these are big issues. So talking about what CPRIT has done, CPRIT has really had a consistent commitment to pediatric cancer that's far beyond the amount the NIH commits to pediatric cancer. To sort of put it in a comparative sense, CPRIT commits 13% of their portfolio to pediatric cancer. The NIH, it's about 4%. So CPRIT has been committed to this patient population. And what that means is they've given large amounts of funds targeting the cancers that are most difficult to treat, things like brain cancers. They've given a lot to leukemias, Ewing sarcoma, survivorship. They've funded a large number of research projects, cores, and there's a lot of clinical trials that support. And if we had to quantitate it, it's 865 publications and 54 patents filed based on the CPRIT support. They've invested $523.6 million. For me, that's a sort of massive investment. Pediatric cancer isn't supported generally to those levels. So this support's been critical in making us a national leader in Texas in this particular domain. How do they do it? They support the recruitment of childhood cancer researchers. There's been 8 established investigators, 20 first-time tenure track. And again, Dr. Gaudier is a recent example. And again, these are folks with incredible accomplishments, concordant with everybody else who's recruited through this mechanism and really focused on the pediatric area. One of the areas that's been usually successful for us, because not only do they provide resources for others to utilize, but they've served as an organizing principle across all of the CPRIT activities, is the cores. There have been 23 with the recent ones listed here. Obviously, they span multiple institutions and clearly are critical to the work that we do. There are multi-investigator research awards. I have been privileged to be a PI of one of those, and obviously the support is beyond appreciated. These were awarded in 2024 and before that in 2018. So what are the impact of CPRIT funding mechanisms? Huge numbers of shareable models, new capacity for data storage. This is beyond just listing publications and sort of patents. This is really what this allows us to do and is critically important to our activities. Individual research projects tackle specific big problems. I'm not going to go through those in detail, but I will note that Dr. Parsons who's going to co-present with me, is third down on the list, and also has been a recipient of an award. In 2025, the following RFAs were offered, and applications will be reviewed in March 2026. We're going to spend time talking about the new multi-investigator research award with a real goal of making some of these initiatives Texas-wide. There's also core facilities which have been critically important to our success. Me closing out the part I'm going to present, I think despite all of this support, there are many areas where the progress hasn't been as great as others. So if we look at leukemia, that's sort of the success story of oncology overall, pediatric oncology overall, where 50 years ago it was incurable, but now we cure over 90%. If we look at the disease I work on, osteosarcoma, progress has stalled over the last 3 decades. So whether it's patients with brain tumors or patients with metastatic sarcomas, we have a lot of additional areas of need. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Parsons, who's going to keep going on ongoing steps.
Thank you. And I'm here and I appreciate the opportunity to work with Rich and present this on our behalf. And I apologize that I wasn't able to make it for the meeting in person today. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as Dr. Gorlick alluded to, we have a quite we have grown a quite strategic and inclusive and collaborative structure within our pediatric committee. Dr. Gorlick and I partner in terms of helping to lead it. We have a number of members, many of whom are quite esteemed and accomplished scientists, as you can see in that second box. And then one of the real advances or changes of the last handful of years has been creation of specific subcommittees focused on what we think are a number of the key areas in pediatric cancer. Some of which, for example, on the far left, AYA and brain tumors and cell therapy, Dr. Gorlick has already highlighted a bit. I would also just point out the Frontiers group, the C5 that you can see there, which is focused on research and access for patients who have not always been as included, and for additional programs and institutions that have not been as included in some of these efforts as well. And then on the far right, you can see survivorship, which is obviously key to us. Next slide. A number of recommendations have been made by this group, and Dr. Gorlick, to his credit, has created a very collaborative and participatory structure in which all of our members are not just allowed, but expected and engaged to provide ideas about these various topics. This slide highlights a number of the specific recommendations that have come out of our monthly meetings, as well as our in-person every other year get-togethers, which I'll highlight in just a moment. Some of the key ones here, and you can see there's same themes as across some of the MIRA projects, some of the cores that were highlighted related to, enhancing the website to allow more effective dissemination of the information about all the incredible work and opportunities and access to samples and research data that's available through the various cores. The patient-derived xenograft PDX sharing and homogenization, making this a strategic plan across the state, recommending creating Texas-wide infrastructure for pediatric cancer research, which we're focusing on a bit. The pediatric-specific cancer-civic multi-investigator awards, or MIRAs, which Dr. Gorlick already highlighted, and a number of other areas you can see, some of which I've also discussed. The bottom line is our intent has been to make this committee a true strategic, intellectual, and advisory committee, as opposed to one where we get together with our friends and talk about important things for our research. Next slide, please. And now there's some of the check marks of various places in which progress has been made. One of our goals, more generally speaking, is to partner and help to advise on funding mechanisms that would be most strategic in terms of facilitating pediatric research. And really, as I hope you hear, a common theme across much of what we're talking about expanding research efforts and access for patients all across the very large and diverse state of Texas. So including enhancing drug development, having specific subgroups related to projects, continuing to grow and make our advisory council increasingly participatory and collaborative, suggesting interventions focused on underserved populations, and really thinking about ways in which we can provide services and engage patients and physicians and researchers outside of simply here in Houston or some of the other large academic centers, but really taking advantage of the incredible resource of the diverse state of Texas. Next slide. Next, please. So in terms of some of our concrete specific examples of recommendations that have been made, we've already discussed a few of these, but just wanted to highlight them. First is several of the specific fundamental and primary important CPRIT grant mechanisms have been incredibly valuable to those of us who are trying to improve care for children, adolescents, and young adults with cancer. Specifically, the MIRA Awards. This is one I have personal experience. My first CPRIT exposure was being, part of one single project of a pediatric liver tumor focused MIRA Award back in the very, very early years of CPRIT. I don't want to say exactly how old I am. Secondly, the core grants, as Dr. Gorlick highlighted, have been really critical to promote pediatric cancer research and also epidemiologic and survivorship research related to pediatric cancer across the state. We've also continue to receive support from the various individual research grants, including pediatric-focused individual investigator grants and the recruitment awards. We strongly encourage continuation of that, which I don't think I probably need to say, but these have been absolutely wonderful resources for us, and particularly in a overall environment, as Dr. Gorlick highlighted, where funding for pediatric cancer research from the NCI and from other sources can be particularly challenging. In this world, we're used to needing to be diverse in terms of our funding mechanisms, from national mechanisms, the NCI, DoD, private foundations, philanthropy, et cetera. But we are amazingly fortunate in Texas to have the foundation of that be CPRIT. In terms of specific immediate opportunities that we're focused on and encouraging our CPRIT partners and collaborators to continue to think about, further enhancing the website to disseminate basic information and practical information about the cores that can facilitate future collaborations and future use, such that all of the resources that CPRIT has invested in these cores can be maximally utilized for our patients here in Texas. Secondly, in improving and developing even more robust structures for sharing of the various cancer models that have been developed with CPRIT funding, including to facilitate future treatment developments. Data harmonization and sharing is always a topic in terms of the individual researchers. Just in my specific area, a past area of research alone related to genomics and understanding the genetic basis of cancer, as many in this room probably know, depending on when a tumor was sequenced, what instruments were used, what bioinformatics were used, what downstream data clinical correlation methods were used, there can be real challenges sharing details between important information between individual researchers, and that's something that we're working to also help to facilitate more generally. I've highlighted, I think, the bullet point about enhanced ability to participate and utilize. I think utilize is the key point about the cores, and I'll highlight further in just a moment. We have actually, led by Dr. Gorlick and the team, been working on a manuscript kind of articulating and describing the strategy that's been used here from this committee, and also more generally the incredible support that CPRIT has provided for pediatric cancer research in the state of Texas. We would like to be advertising and making this known to our colleagues from around the country and all the world, so they can see the exciting work that's being done here and think about whether there's opportunities to build upon that, whether they're in their own states, for example. Next slide. Every other year, most recently in the fall of 2024, which reminds me that we must be getting close to thinking about this again, funded by both CPRIT and then very generously the Carson Leslie Foundation from Annette Leslie et al. Have funded this Researchers Roundup. And this has actually been an incredibly useful meeting because it brings together incredibly researchers with many different areas of focus, many diseases, many methods, many technologies, bring them together to build upon our virtual meetings that we have each month or every other month, to really try and think about what are the most important issues facing us, and specifically the question of how we can partner and work with CPRIT to facilitate what are the key and understanding the key questions moving forward, in addition to providing an impetus to collaboration from researchers across the state. So this has been incredibly useful. Also supported by some of the other organizations, the Quad W and Lydia Hill that you see on here. Next slide, please. So a lot of our strategy moving forward and the key themes that have come out of these meetings are the ones that we've really hopefully effectively spent some time highlighting in this brief presentation. First, addressing gaps in pediatric drug development. This is, as I'm sure you're all aware, development of drugs for rare diseases, for pediatric diseases can sometimes be a challenge, although given successes with drugs for rare diseases more generally, some of those principles are also being applied in pediatric oncology. But that's one of the key areas that we're going to be focusing on, how to partner to facilitate pediatric drug development, and also ways that we can collaborate even more effectively on trials related to those drugs. The second thing that we're continuing to try and understand, and we have our impressive set of experts, epidemiologists epidemiologists, and others who are working on this to try and understand and better address some of the variation in both cancer incidence rates as well as outcomes across the state of Texas. We know enough to know that these exist, but frankly, the details of it and specifically how that might be rationally used to guide strategies is not as well known as it should be in our domain. So this is one area of focus where we have a number of team members trying to better understand some of these details and also factors such as, for example, environmental exposures. And then going back to the very beginning of the presentation, addressing the needs of the AYA cancer population is one that's critical for both our pediatric oncologists as well as our adult oncology colleagues. Next slide. So I do want to highlight, I think Dr. Gorlick had already mentioned it. This MIRA grant was related to the pediatric projects and specifically the focus on childhood and adolescent young adult cancers with an emphasis on improving cancer care delivery and survivorship services was one of the specific grant mechanisms whereby our committee and folks spent a lot of time thinking about this and how to advise and give some suggestions to CPRIT administration about how they can make the most effective and impactful grant mechanism. And I know there was a lot of excitement about this in the pediatric cancer research community, and I'm very excited to see what projects will come out of it. Next slide. This is highlights just showing one snapshot of an outline which was developed at a point in our preparation of this the manuscript describing the CPRIT pediatric experience, which I mentioned. You can see just some of we just wanted to show as examples some of the areas that are being focused on. You know, first, fundamentally, CPRIT is a driver of cancer research in Texas. So talking about a lot of the same things that we've highlighted here in this presentation today. Secondly, focus on what some of the CPRIT our committee activities have been that are most critical. The role of patient advocates. Clearly, that partnership is very important to us, both here in Texas and across the country, and focusing on some of the future directions and opportunities. We think this will be of high interest to our colleagues from around the country. Next slide. Finally, I would be remiss if I did not once again thank CPRIT and CPRIT leadership for their remarkable partnership and support of pediatric cancer research. It's impossible to convey how much this means to us. It's critical in terms of supporting our research and our projects. It's critical in terms of supporting improving outcomes for our patients. And it also, the sustained clear focus and priority of CPRIT for supporting these things is something that is understood within the patient advocate community, our patients, as well as our clinicians and researchers. So many thanks to the folks you see here on this slide. If we put up the bullet points of those who have helped us over my time here since 2008 here in Texas in relation with CPRIT, it would be a very long slide indeed, but we're remarkably grateful to Kristen Doyle, Cindy Payne, Scott Hebert, and Miriam Casillas, as well as all of the others who are helping us with these efforts. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot what we had one last summary slide. This, I think we have captured all the key points here. But again, thank you for all your support of our patients and their families.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gorlick and Dr. Parsons. Are there any questions? Yes.
That's quite a bit. It's a lot of information, though. I'm just curious, why do you, as an organization, why do we put AYA, why do we put young adults or over the age of 18 in the category as with children?
Yeah, so the problem with adolescent cancer is they fall between the cracks of the care delivery systems that provide care to children and the care delivery systems that provide care to older adults. If you look traditionally at the sort of clinical trials participation, and you look at the survival outcomes, cancer by cancer, this group does worse. Some of the issues are sort of the life events that are occurring during this period of time, meaning if we think about 18, 19-year-olds, they go off to college, they're not always attentive to, you know, signs and symptoms that may be worrisome. They're transitioning from sort of a parental supervision to independent support. And those societal factors create a set of issues, and then the care delivery system creates a set of issues. And between the two, this is a group that does a bit worse than either place on the other side. So if you look at leukemias in this age population, they don't do as well as the children. You know, things are different for them. That's the reason to focus on this group.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Mr. Taylor.
Gentlemen, thank you for what you do. Keep doing it often. I want to address the under 6 category. I'm not a doctor, but I would think environmental aspects are really not doesn't affect the under 6 category because they hadn't been around a long time. So that leads me to believe, is it genetic on the cancers you're seeing? And the second part of that question is, if it's genetic, can they do genetic testing for cancers? I just had a genetic cancer test to see what my body is a target for. But under 6, they can't communicate, et cetera. But is there a genetic test, or is most of what you've seen genetic?
Yeah. So great question. Thank you for it. I think on the environmental side, you're right. Traditionally in pediatric cancer, we've always thought that limited time of exposure means environmental factors aren't probably huge factors in childhood cancer. There's been very little ability to link in younger kids any environmental exposure to the incidence of cancer. For the genetic part of it, I'm actually going to defer to my colleague, Dr. Parsons, mainly because his area of expertise is really all about, genetic risk factors for, cancer predispositions and other things. So do you want to comment, Dr. Parsons, on the
Yes,
genetic
please.
side?
I love the question. It's almost a setup for me. I appreciate that. I'll give a very brief answer, although I'd love to talk in more depth. Understanding of the genetic basis of pediatric cancer, and specifically explanations for some of our patients who have clear family predisposition to cancer and inherited cancer syndromes that were born within their families, has been one of the better understanding. That has been one of the success stories, broadly speaking, of the last decade or so. We now routinely do genetic testing of tumors to understand, the specific aspects of tumors that might guide decision-making about molecularly targeted therapies, immunotherapies, et cetera. We also now routinely do genetic testing of our pediatric patients in terms of understanding whether they have inherited cancer risk. And we're learning a lot about the subtleties, just like many adult diseases and all other diseases. There's multifactorial kind of environment and multigenic sort of factors that are pretty complex. But in about 10% of our pediatric patients, for example, we can identify a clear genetic explanation for why they developed their cancer. That actually is what the important part is, there are now data that if we can identify those patients early, we can institute surveillance type methods, for example, for patients who have inherited mutations in P53, which is a key cancer gene, Li-Fraumeni syndrome, through combinations of, yearly MRI scans, ultrasound, some lab testing, careful follow-up their clinicians, that outcomes for those patients can be drastically improved by diagnosing cancers earlier. That's actually figuring out and assessing and implementing how we could identify those patients even earlier, for example, using newborn blood spots to identify those that inherited cancer risk, is something that CPRIT is very kindly funding research into across the state as we speak. So this is a very important area for our patients. Thank you.
You just answered my other question, is how young can you do the testing?
Blood spots.
Everybody talks about the blood test you do when you're born. You can draw a lot of stuff out of that. So thank you, guys.
Dr. Rosenfeld?
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Have a comment and a question. First, the comment is, I'm really excited about the manuscript you're going to submit. I hope you get a platform presentation at a national meeting, but more importantly, it helps get the word out to the country and the world about
what's going on in Texas and CPRIT specifically. So if you think about it, when you got a draft presentation, I'd love to see it.
Fantastic. We, some of the impetus for this was sort of summarizing what happened from the meeting, but some of the impetus for this was the comments from you guys in prior meetings. You know, one of the things you had asked is how do we disseminate like CPRIT and its impact on childhood cancer in Texas and more broadly. And we said, why don't we put together a manuscript and tackle this directly? So much credit to you guys. I can't remember which person in specific sort of asked the question. It was you. Okay, I don't deny it. But it came from you guys. It came from you guys. So please understand, we take what you say very seriously, and we're happy to be advised by you guys. So thank you.
I hope you get it in nature.
Us too.
My question has to sort of, it's related to Tommy's, but my meager understanding of this area is that that exposure during fetal development could be a risk factor for many of these cancers, or some of these cancers. When you're banking specimens, do you bank maternal tissue?
I'm trying to look at Dr. Parsons and seeing if he knows. I don't think so.
That's a great question. Routinely, historically, that has not been a focus as much, but especially, you know, building across several of the questions that you all have raised here regarding genetic factors, inheritance, collecting blood samples in particular, or saliva samples where we can do genetic testing from parents is something that is done through, for example, the Access trial across the state that CPRIT has funded, or others. Getting other maternal tissues has not been a focus. It's a really interesting idea.
I think there's been studies where people have done familial studies collecting buccal swabs from multiple family members, but it's not targeted through a birth process. You're probably correct. Yeah.
I might be saying the same thing, but you just stimulated a thought that's to say that if you're doing genetic testing in little people, and it's hard to find the reasons, that 90% don't seem to have a pattern, but epigenetics would be something that might come along from the maternal exposure, which wouldn't change a gene, wouldn't change a gene test, but it would change the things around the genes that decide whether or not they get expressed or not. And so that's, if that occurred to me as you said that maybe that's where the gold is there.
Yeah, totally agree with you. There's opportunities to look at this through those sort of mechanisms, but I haven't seen much data that provides an explanation yet. I think even the capturing of environmental data was sort of highlighted on one of the slides that, you know, we have registry data which suggests variation across regions, but in a rare cancer, we don't know how much of that is just random variability versus driven by something. There's a lot more to be done. So thank you.
Were there any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much. Excellent presentation, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
At this point, we're going to go back to item 13, advisory committees. And this was Ms. Doyle's presentation on the 6 advisory committee appointments. Is there a motion to approve the CEO's 6 appointments to the advisory committees? All in favor vote aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Now to item 14. The chair now recognizes Mr. Ellis to discuss the proposed administrative rule changes.
I was worried we might lose the momentum of excitement there, so now we get to talk about administrative rules for even more interest. You'll find the materials related to the proposed rule changes behind tab 11 in your board book. You may recall that we sought and obtained your approval to publish some proposed changes to section 703.24 of CPRIT's administrative code rules back in November. The proposed changes state that CPRIT will review and pay a financial status report within 30 days of receiving a correct and complete FSR from a grantee. In addition to stating that 30-day deadline, it also allows a process whereby the CEO can waive temporarily that 30-day deadline in writing with notice to the Oversight Committee and with a public posting of the waivers. The amendment's necessary because the Texas Grant Management Standards require state agencies to review requests for a payment within 21 days. We found, as we've reviewed our business processes, we're not quite able to do that just now. And because we're adopting a new grant management system, we can't make a good judgment about what a workable deadline would be at this time. So for the time being, we're proposing to waive that in favor of the 30-day deadline for payment after we receive a complete and correct one. We're allowed to deviate from the Texas GMS standards, but we have to do so through a formal rulemaking. So we've done that, or we published that proposed change. It's been out for the requisite amount of time. We haven't received any public comments about it. The rule change and the final order to adopt that rule were presented to the board government subcommittee who voted to recommend it to the whole board. And so we're here today seeking approval to publish the final order that would adopt that rule. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ellis? Members, is there a motion to approve the final order adopting the rule change to Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 703? All in favor, vote aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Ellis, for that riveting presentation.
I think that ought to be good. That or all that are being in the point to.
Okay.
And then Ben.
Turning to agenda item 15, the chair recognizes Mr. Weaver to present the Chief Financial Officer's report.
Good morning, Oversight Committee members. Glad to be here with you. Given the full slate of events and travel plans, I'll try to keep it concise while upholding the high standard of excitement that's kept you at rapt attention thus far, starting with compliance and on through internal audit with a stop to administrative rules. I'll see if I can maintain your attention. But again, I'll try to be concise. If anything requires further drilling down, just let me know, or feel free to stop me with any questions you may have. So presenting an overview of the agency's operating budget through the first quarter of FY 2026, ending November 30th, 2025, you'll see that our indirect administrative budget as appropriated is about $5 million. That generally does not change. Our direct administrative strategy, the grant review and award ops strategy, has an appropriated budget of about $17 million. But as we've discussed previously, that number increased by about 11 million to bring it up to 29 in total, primarily due to the carryover of funds appropriated through the supplemental appropriations bill so that we can acquire our new grant management platform. In addition, there are some small amounts carried forward for conference planning services, registration fees for the conference, and our intellectual property database cleanse contract. In addition, the bulk of our budget goes to our grant awards, which as of November 30th represents the awards y'all approved at the September meeting, and that encompasses $154 million in total, about 27 million of which represents the 10% limit for prevention awards, another 60 million for academic research, and 67 million for product development awards. On top of that, we heard the slate of about 15 million for academic research earlier this morning, and that'll leave us about 100 million to work with through the remainder of the fiscal year. With respect to revenue, not a whole lot of excitement. We collected about $300,000 during the first quarter. As you might imagine, the bulk of that is attributable to the Wellereg royalties that we receive. Continuing the discussion points I've brought to you from previous periods, we've been hearing news that the drug has been approved for sale in new countries, and we're finally starting to see that translate into revenue. And so we received the third quarter calendar year 2025 revenue check for Wellereg, and that was about $290,000, an increase of about 40% year over year from the third quarter in 2024. And then just a little bit of exciting factoid, or again, I find it exciting. Hopefully you share my excitement. Again, the whole pie is increasing period over period. For the third quarter 25 compared to 24, that pie increased about 40%. But for the first time, we are seeing revenues from countries like China and Germany and Argentina. And so while the US sales continue to perform well and are increasing period over period as a percentage of the overall pie, which itself is increasing, the US sales are becoming a smaller slice of that pie, while in absolute terms still increasing in revenue. And so from the third quarter of 2024, US sales were about 90% of the pie. Third quarter 2025, it's only about 80% of the pie. But again, all the numbers are still getting bigger. So hopefully a harbinger of good things to continue in the future. Moving on to our performance measures, good news with regard to the number of prevention services. Was a topic of conversation last year, where we set the new high watermark for the agency's performance at well over 1 million of those people served in FY 2025. We're only a quarter of the way through here, FY 2026, but we're performing well again. We had about 240,000 people served by those prevention services, or about a little bit over 30% of our annual target. So with only a quarter of the ball game in the books, we're well positioned, and hopefully we'll continue that momentum and set a new high water mark by the time FY 2026 is all done. With our other quarterly key prevention measure, we did not have any company relocations for the first quarter. And finally, with regard to our debt issuance, in September, we issued the first tranche of our anticipated $298 million to be issued this fiscal year. And we issued just under $89 million in September. In the intervening period, we issued another $72 million in December. We have a planned issuance of about 75 coming up here in March. And again, that will take us with one more issuance in the summer to about our anticipated $298 million total issuance activity on the year. And with all of that activity, that brings us up to a cumulative bond issuance from agency inception to date, ending November 30th, of just under $3.5 billion. So those are the high points, but happy to elaborate or discuss anything that might have caught your interest.
Any questions? Yeah, Dr. Rosenfeld.
What kind of rate are we getting on current bond sales?
They're a little bit lower than historically, about 4.25, 4.3. But again, that's initially issued as commercial paper with a maturity up to 90 days. So you'd expect those rates to be on the lower end of the spectrum. When they're fixed out to longer term bonds, probably creep up closer to a 5 given today's rates. But that won't occur until the summer. As you probably know, a lot can change with the financial markets in just a couple of days, much less a few months, but that's where we're at currently.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Weaver? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, I'll just add while Ms. McConnell is coming up. Yeah, this ties well back to what I was saying in my CEO report. Wellereg was a product that was developed by Peloton, and Peloton, we approved that award in, I think, June of 2010. So, 16 years, and, the financial information is fantastic. Money back to the state. We've put money in, and so money is coming back to the state. But also, I mean, those are patients that are receiving a drug when there was no other drug for what they had at that point. And so, just like, Mr. Weaver has said, it, obviously it will be fantastic to have that amount that comes back to Texas continue to grow, but to see the effect of the awards made by the Oversight Committee and how that is affecting patients.
Thank you for highlighting that. Moving on to item 16, the chair recognizes Ms. McConnell to give an update on the 2026 CPRIT conference.
Thank you, Ms. Payne, and good morning, Oversight Committee. So we're 8 months away from Innovation 7, which will be in Galveston, Texas. October 6th and 7th are the dates of the conference, with October 5th being the date for the Texans Conquer Cancer Awards dinner. I will just emphasize that that dinner is on Monday, not Sunday, and the conference will be on a Tuesday and Wednesday, so it does differ from our 2023 conference. Registration for the conference opened on January 12th. We have approximately 40 registrants so far. And several of the Oversight Committee members have already registered. We're also busy registering conference sponsors and exhibitors. To date, we do have one major conference sponsor for the day one lunch. That's HGI Clinical in Houston, and we have two exhibitors also registered. And there are other conversations going on with other potential registrants and or exhibitors and sponsors. We're also busy working on the conference schedule. And so stay tuned. We will start announcing conference sessions in the not too distant future. One question that I'm following up on from the November meeting is a question about potential CME accreditation for the conference. There are a few issues with that. One of the requirements is that the targeted audience be medical doctors. And actually the conference, the number of physicians that actually attend CPRIT's conference is relatively low. I looked at the statistics from 2023. It's less than 10% because so many of our especially CPRIT grantees are actually PhDs, not medical professionals. And also one of the requirements because of that targeted nature of that is that the presentations have to contain so much valid medical information. And that's actually part of the compliance that is used to verify, like, does CME qualify? So I think and then you have to find somebody who will do joint accreditation. Or joint providership. And generally those are commercial entities. And from what I could find online, without, specifically, because we'd have to do a procurement as a state agency, we would have to procure those services. That starts at around $20,000 because you have to have compliance professionals actually on board to verify all of these things. So unfortunately, it's really not feasible for us to get CME accreditation for the conference.
So I guess continuing education for lawyers kind of out of the question.
Sorry. Well,
Yeah.
What about for CPAs?
So one final thing is just to talk about the Texans Conquer Cancer Award. So this is the first time we will be recognizing grantees. I think for those of you who were at the conference in 23, we recognized several lawmakers who had been instrumental in bringing CPRIT to life and keeping CPRIT going. But with the grantees, we're going to be, the nominations should be based on impact or innovation in cancer prevention, diagnosis, research, survivorship, or treatment. And those nominations are open on our website. through March 1st. To date, we've gotten 4 nominations. So for anybody listening, please nominate. And the main requirements are that you be a CPRIT grantee, past or present, and there's no self-nomination, but certainly colleagues can nominate others. So with that, that concludes my remarks unless there are questions.
Any questions for Ms. McConnell? Yes, Dr. Rosenfeld.
Heidi, thank you for looking into the CME. Really appreciate it. Just out of curiosity, I know this may be a little unrelated, but will there be any talk of DPRIT at the CPRIT meeting?
No, we don't anticipate that.
Okay, I understand.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. McConnell. Okay, item number 17. The chair recognizes Mr. Leffler to update us on CPRIT's communications activities.
Good morning, members. Very quickly, my report is, of course, at the last page in the book. Our update is the annual report. Of course, that takes quite a bit of time, but we're really very proud of it. It is a team effort from the grantees to everyone at CPRIT. So I do want to point out one thing, though, that we did get a tremendous response from our grantees in providing images. So a lot of those fantastic images in the report all come directly from the grantees. So it's a good reminder that this is not just an opportunity for CPRIT to talk about what we're doing, but it's an opportunity for the grantees to get word out on their work. So we're happy to provide that. But again, thank you for the comments and emails we've gotten so far. I encourage you to read all of them, all 40 plus articles, around 39, 40 articles. And I just want to point out too, when you read those articles, there is a little share feature at the bottom of each article. So feel free to share it, on your social media accounts. I know you're all social media influencers with millions of followers. So please take that opportunity to share those via email and everything else. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Leffler? Thank you very much, and thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, the Oversight Committee will not take up standing agenda item 18. Moving to agenda items 19, 20, and 21 that we will now take up in closed session. For the members of the public watching this meeting, I do not expect to act on other matters after returning from closed session before adjourning the meeting. We will now move into a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 and Texas Health and Safety Code Section 102.2631 to consult with CPRIT's counsel and the Chief Compliance Officer regarding DP 260247 and ongoing compliance investigations. The following CPRIT staff shall join the Oversight Committee in closed session: Ms. Doyle, Ms. McConnell, Dr. Smith, Mr. Ellis, Mr. Burgess, and Mr. Nance. The time is 10:26 a.m. The board now reconvenes in open session. The time is 11:03 a.m. Turning to agenda item 22, CPRIT will hold the next Oversight Committee meeting on May 20th. And there was one more item. Agenda item 22, future meeting dates and agenda items. So the next Oversight Committee meeting will be on May 20th, and then there is a proposed board retreat that will either be before the May meeting or the August meeting.
Wonderful.
If there is no further business and there's no objection, The chair moves to adjourn this meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting stands adjourned at 11:04 a.m. Thank you.